Okay, so we're off on a Tuesday evening spin, 25 degrees. We're going to go round to something that's called locally the V, and do a couple of hours or something along those lines. It's great to be out on the bike on a nice summer's evening. I've got my friend in front. He's on his R18. I think it's the R18 bagger that he has there. And then behind me I have another friend who's got his F900XR. And of course I'm on the trusty GS. Unfortunately, this may be getting towards the end of the rides on the GS, because next Tuesday I'm going to part exchange it for a K1600 GTL. Quite looking forward to that. Now, I had a K1600 GT before, a 2013 model, and I part exchanged that for a 2014 1200 GS Adventure. And when I got off the GTL and got onto the Adventure, I actually thought to myself, my goodness me, this bike is very light compared to the GTL or the GT. And that thought was underlined actually on Sunday, because I went out with a couple of guys on Sunday, and one of them has a 1600 GT, and anyway, he wanted me to move it from a parking position that it was in, and so I did. I paddled it backwards, and instantly as I sort of picked it up, I thought to myself, my goodness me, this bike is very top heavy. And I remember that paddling around my 1600 GT all those years ago. Getting it in and out of the shed is a big sort of thing, isn't it? And you're doing this sort of delicate manoeuvring, and even if you sort of let it go slightly over balance, it's very difficult to regain equilibrium. So look, I hope I've done the right thing. I'm hoping that with the GTL my wife will come on the bike some more. She does never really like the GS. Now I do like the GS. I'm quite happy with the GS, but I also like to change my bikes because I'm a bit like that. Anyway, so that's what's happening next week. And then I might say to myself, or you might ask me, why am I bothering to change the bike? And I'm changing the bike because I can, I suppose. That's the reality of it. Oops, my phone. That was a bit of luck. My phone came off the cradle, which I didn't notice, and was just lying there between the handlebars and the top box. That was a bit of luck. I'll have to do some work here to catch Alan again. guess I'd let him go ahead while I was messing about with the phone. Don't know what happened there, how it came dislodged. Normally it's very secure, so I obviously didn't put it in properly. Yes, can you imagine losing your phone? Oh my goodness me, everything is in your phone, isn't it? So why am I changing from this GS? Not because I don't like it, in fact I do like it. I think initially I didn't think it was very engaging. And I suppose in many ways it isn't. My immediately previous bike was a 1250 RS. That was more engaging. It looked nicer as well. I haven't really warmed to the look of this GS. I preferred the old GS, which had a more purposeful stance, and the new Adventure I just can't warm to its looks at all. It's just ugly in my view, and that's the end of it. Well, I've said it before and I'm going to say it again, we have some fantastic roads here in Ireland, and we're riding along one today. So yeah, what's wrong with this bike? The looks. Yeah, I don't like the looks. I don't like that headlight, and in fact that headlight is not that effective either. When I first got the bike, yeah, excuse me, dip beam was great, but when I put it on main beam it seemed to be pointing towards the sky. So anyway, I got it properly adjusted it, and the dip beam obviously went down, but the main beam now is much better and actually has got a better coverage than it had before. I don't know what BMW were thinking when they sorted that out. Anyway, so that's one thing, the looks, the light. Oh yeah, the seat. I got the comfort seat, extra money for the comfort seat. I'm not sure what the other seat was, the uncomfortable seat, but anyway, that was not a seat. I just couldn't get on with that. It was canted forwards or tilted forwards, so I felt I was being pushed into the handlebars all the time. Not really what I need on a GS. So also, you know, after a bit of a period, it was a complete arse wrecker, to be honest. Didn't get on with it at all, not to mention the old crown jewels being crushed against the tank regularly. So I bought this kit from Wunderlich, which replaced the rubber seating rings with ones that are slightly more sort of offset on them, and that improved it a little bit, but it was still very uncomfortable. And also you're sliding around on the thing, so no, wasn't impressed with the seat. So I bought a rider's seat and a pillion seat from Wunderlich, and they're brilliant, absolutely brilliant, much more comfortable, solved the problem. But that's an extra €1,000 or more to solve a problem that shouldn't really be there on a bike that already costs €27,000. Anyway, I couldn't get boxes because there were no boxes to be had at the time when I bought the bike. So I bought the Lone Ranger, yeah, where do I think I am? Tonto, yeah, okay. I bought the Lone Rider rear top box and the adapter plate. That was about 750 quid altogether, but the box itself is absolutely brilliant. It's got a nice padded interior, comes with a bag, comes with a light, it's got the passenger backrest and pad already installed. You can fit the barrel so that it fits your BMW key. Absolutely brilliant. Now it doesn't have central locking, which I know the latest GS Adventure does, but I don't think that's a problem. So yeah, I got the Lone Ranger top box. I didn't really like the look of the BMW boxes anyway, so I wasn't too disappointed about that. I didn't get panniers, mostly if I'm travelling. For instance, I went to Barcelona last year. I've got a top box and also a bag which I strap to the pillion seat, and that's sufficient for me for a couple of weeks, no problem. And when you're filtering in traffic, I don't really need panniers to get in my way. Although of course the 1600 GTO is going to be coming with panniers. I'll get used to that. I can take them off when I'm not using them. So then, what's next? Yes, the sound of the engine. The engine pulls great. It's a great engine, but it sounds horrible. In fact, a lot of people, well, if you start the bike and someone's standing next to you, they look at it as, you know, as if there's something wrong with the thing. Oh, it just sounds absolutely terrible, clattery, horrible. But it runs okay. It runs very well. It's got good power, good torque spread. Absolutely brilliant. I'm not going to get past this van by the look of it. Anyway, yeah, very impressed with the engine, except for the sound of it. The gearbox is a much better change than the 1250 GS Adventure that I had previously. And the only thing is, of course, they moved the gearbox from the back of the engine into the underneath the engine, and it's got straight cut gears instead of the helical cut gears that were on the older bike, and it does give a much better change. But when you're pulling away first and second gear, it sounds like an old Morris Minor. So from an audible point of view, it's not brilliant. The exhaust is good. Yeah, the exhaust sound is good. So yeah, that is actually a plus. So there we go. It handles brilliantly. Absolutely brilliant handling, and the ride comfort in the various modes. You can adjust the damping within the mode, so you got you know, if you're road mode or dynamic mode. I'm in dynamic pro mode at the moment, which means what I've got is the dynamic engine response, but with the soft suspension, so I could just change the mode to dynamic and that would harden up the suspension for me. I don't bother with rain mode. Don't see any need for it. Just be a bit more careful. That's what I do. Yeah, so far I've managed to keep out of trouble. Yeah, so overall it is a great bike. I've done 23,500 kilometers, or just a bit more than that. Actually, let me just have a look, see where are we. Next one, 23,690 kilometers. So since March last year, that's when I bought this, March last year. So yeah, I use it and I've had some fun on it. I'm hoping I'll have some fun on the GTL. I'm hoping also that my wife will come on the back of the GTL. able to do a bit of touring. We used to do touring when I had my Goldwing, been to Italy and around a bit of Europe and stuff, but she's never gelled with any of the GS's I've had. So initially, why did I buy a GS in the first place? Why did I get rid of the Goldwing? Well, I suppose I wanted to be a biker, yeah. And I suppose the Goldwing has a reputation for being, it's not a biker's bike, although actually it's actually quite good. But I part exchanged the Goldwing for a 2008 GS Adventure. That's the air-cooled one, and to be honest, that's probably the best GS that I've ever had. That air-cooled engine is a stonker. I also had that same engine. Whoops, it's a bit rough. That doesn't give you any confidence in the bend because of the rough surface. Anyway, what was I saying? Oh yes, I had that air-cooled engine in another bike, the R9T that I had a few years ago, and that was a fantastic bike. And of all the BMWs that I've bought, starting with that 2008 GS Adventure, to be honest, the R9T is the one I regret getting rid of most. But it was impractical. I'm not in a position to have more than one bike at the moment. The R9T looked great, handled great, but it wasn't practical. Because I use my bikes all year round. You go out in the winter in the salt and everything else, and it, you know, you just can't. Trying to get all the salt and the crud off and everything else, you know, I just couldn't let it. Couldn't live with it. I just couldn't live with it. So that bike went in the end, but I do regret getting rid of that bike. I really loved it. Anyway, yeah, so that air-cooled engine, brilliant. So that was my history. That's my history with GS's. I've also had the Boxer Twin on the 1250 RS. That was quite a good bike as well. One thing I did do when I got this is the V. Anyway, one thing I did think, you know, with that Boxer engine, 2 cylinders, so flexible, and this is very flexible, you know, it pulls from no revs up, there's no jerkiness, it's just brilliant. It's, you know, some of the guys on YouTube, Teapot One for instance, he calls his the tractor, and you can understand it. Well, it's not just because it sounds like a clattery old tractor, but it just pulls you out of everything from any revs. It's just brilliant. A brilliant engine. But I also know that the GTL 6-cylinder engine, 160 brake, is also brilliant. It's an awesome engine. Now my GT, the 2013 GT that I originally had, didn't have a quick shifter, and this one will have. It's a clattery old transmission on the GT and the GTL, but I think I can live with that. In fact, the guy in front here who's got his R18 there has also got the 1600 Grand America, which he uses for touring. And you know, he loves that bike. Another guy in the club has also got a Grand America, and they both love their GTs. Their 1600s, their K1600, and that wouldn't be the first K1600 he ever bought either. So yeah, they're great bikes. I'm just hoping that I will not regret the top heaviness of it. Just gonna have to get used to that. But look, once it's rolling, there's no problem. It's when it comes to a stop and you've got a passenger on and luggage and a full fuel tank, that's when it gets a little bit iffy, shall we say, or it can get iffy, especially if there's a fall of ground when you're stopped. One thing I like about this, another thing I like about this, quite a lot of things I like about this bike now, is the suspension. I ordered the, this is a fantastic road, isn't it? Look at this, absolutely fantastic, and it's just on my doorstep. I'm just so lucky to be living here. Anyway, the suspension, I ordered the suspension that lowers itself when it comes to a stop, which is great, because on my previous GS adventures, to be honest, I've been on tippy toes, and when you're paddling it back and doing sort of those slow speed manoeuvres, you haven't really got the grip in the toes, especially if there's a bit of gravel about, to actually push it back. In fact, on a couple of occasions I've had to ask people to help me push it back when I'm in sitting on it. I could have got off it, of course, just too lazy. So yeah, so because this has got the lowered suspension, when I bought the Rudderlick seats, I decided to get the high seat to open the angle between the seat and the pedals. Oh, for goodness sake, I've forgotten the word for it now. But anyway, so that my leg angle wasn't quite so sharp. Not that he was particularly acute. That sheep got a bit of a scare there, didn't it? Not that it was particularly acute. It wasn't too bad, but yeah. So these Wonderlick seats, along with hand risers, I put risers on it to bring the handlebars up and back towards me, has actually made this a very comfortable place to be. So I'm very happy with the way that's all turned out. Concentrate a little bit on the road. The quick shifter on this is a lot better than the old 1250. And it is still a bit rough, to be honest, still a bit jerky, but you have to know how to treat it. And look, I wouldn't be bothering quick shifting between first and second, and even second and third is a little bit iffy, but generally speaking the quick shifter works very well, and the down blipper works perfectly in every gear. Well, it's 8 o'clock in the evening and it's still 20 degrees. That's mad for Ireland. we've actually had a good summer. Yeah, it's been a few wet days and it hasn't been dry all day long on many occasions, but June, July and August so far have actually been all right. Yeah, been impressive, although we did have a bit of a storm. When do we have it? I've forgotten. A week or so ago. Unusually high winds and rain for the time of year. Unseasonable, I suppose you'd call it. But look, climate change is occurring. Yeah, I know there are different opinions as to cause of climate change, but it definitely is here. Whether it's permanent, whether it's something that's cyclical, I'm not sure anybody really knows enough about climate to fully understand it. Yeah, they can go by data and say, oh yeah, these are the trends, this is what's happening, and we can make some guess, but you can't actually model the climate. Or you can do computer models of climates, but I work in computers and I know that computer models aren't really all they're cracked up to be, because it depends what data you feed it. Okay, anyway, that's enough of that. Let's slow down for this bend. Brakes are good. Brakes are very good on this bike. Very good indeed. And even though it's got a 19-inch front wheel, still you've got a good bit of feel on the front. That was a shift from second to third there. It was all right, a little bit jerky. This is a great road. A perfect road. You need to be a bit careful on it. End up in difficulty very quickly if you are not paying attention. Down through the sweep, and now we're coming into a town called Lismore, which has a castle. We'll pull into the petrol station here. And that was a great spin. Okay, we've left the garage in Lismore and we're heading down the main road now. Obviously there'd be traffic and that sort of thing. Yeah, that was a great spin on that road. Often it can be wet, greasy, traffic getting in your way, and but that was as good as that road ever gets. That was as good a spin as you're ever likely to get on that road. Oh dear, that's a bit of a mess. So very pleasing, very nice. Yeah, sorry, I just put my hand in front of the camera there. Why? Because I've got the media mod attached to the camera, but I cut one side of it off, and the reason I did that was because if I need to change the battery or something on the GoPro, I'd have to undo the media, I'd have to undo the GoPro, take it off its mounting in order to get the media mod out. So what I did was I cut one side of the media mod off so that it can just slide out. So when I need to change the battery, I actually slide off the media mod, put the new battery in and slide the media mod back on. Now, the media mod isn't cheap, it's £100 €100 or more, and hacking into it with a hacksaw. Yeah, I was thinking, what am I doing? But I did get so frustrated with it. And a lot of people criticise these GoPros. I've got a GoPro, well, they're both GoPro Hero 9s that I'm using, and they do perfectly. I don't have any lockups, I don't have any problems, touch wood, and they got good image quality. And what seems to be happening at the moment is that camera sensors haven't developed much over the last few years. There was a massive sort of increase in the quality of camera sensors, and now suddenly they seem to have hit a plateau, especially for these small 1-inch cameras, cameras with small sensors that are less than an inch. They're only small, very small sensors in these things. You know, they do very well, and I'm very happy. There are a couple of things that I would prefer. If possible, I'd like to be able to Bluetooth my audio into the camera directly. At the moment I'm set up with a lapel mic in my helmet, which I took the casing off, cut the wire, just used the capsule, glued the capsule, well, I resoldered the wire just long enough so that it would reach the GoPro, so that it was not flapping in the breeze, and then I glued the capsule so that the microphone part of it faces me, and glued it to a sort of Velcro strip, and then there's another Velcro strip on the helmet. Well, it's more an interlocking plastic system. It's not really Velcro. Works a similar way to Velcro, but it isn't Velcro. It's just a bit more robust. Something by 3M I bought from on Amazon, and that holds my microphone in place. So, but one of the problems that I do have, you know, having hacked into my media mod, is that it sometimes slips out of position and doesn't make a proper connection. So I did a whole thing earlier today and there was no audio. Well, there was audio, but it was only from the internal camera, and all that caught up was wind noise. So that was a bit of a disappointment. I'm hoping that this evening's will be a bit more successful. This is the life out on the motorbike. Of course, Charlie and Ewan are to blame for me buying a GS. I had these notions at the time, oh yeah, let's go around the world and all that sort of thing, but of course it's not practical for many of us. We still have to have jobs and pay the bills, so that didn't happen, but I still get a great deal of enjoyment, and I'd love to do an epic journey. hasn't got great ground clearance, that R18 in front, but he's still able to hustle it along, isn't he? I had my bike in for service one day, and they lent me one of the original R18s. I'm not quite sure what it was called, but the suspension was rock hard on it, rock hard. You wouldn't be able to drive right up these roads on it. I tried to overtake a van in it, and I was being shaken up and down so much that my vision was blurring. You know, I couldn't have lived with it. Now apparently that one is much better. They've got the suspension worked out for that, but that first one, oh my goodness me. Lovely looking bike, nice fittings, all that sort of thing, but no, that's not my cup of tea. Not my cup of tea. Mr. Volvo's going. We're in there. Yeah. No wind turbines. Plant trees instead. I'm just going to enjoy the ride now. So I'm going to sign off, and I'll see you on the next one, and just leave you with the road for a while.